Hello, 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 and welcome to this Wednesday's Live. So, how is everybody doing? Have you had a good week so far? Is your Wednesday you feeling kind of like, yay, it's hump day, or it's hump day? What's going on? Let me know in the comments. So, we've been talking all month about Google Analytics. We've been talking about what to track in your business. Last week, we talked about UTM links so we could know where that traffic was coming from, and how to measure that traffic and all of that kind of good stuff. And so today, we're going to kind of take it back to the basics, okay? Because there are so many things that you could track in your business. And sometimes it might be a little easy to get kind of lose sight of what is important to track because there are so many different things that you could actually be tracking. So, today we're going to take it back to some of the basics. We're going to talk about some social media metrics that you should track, some website metrics that you should track. And then for those who have e-commerce businesses, we're going to talk about some critical measurements for you to track there as well. Okay, so if you have any comments, any questions, leave them in the comments, and hopefully StreamYard's working today and I'm going to be able to see them and I'll make sure to answer those. So, and one other thing though, before we get started, as it relates to Google Analytics, I know that there's a lot of concern in terms of the European Union and what takes place over there. And just so you know, like one of Google's most recent updates as of June 13th is that they literally have EU domains for Google Analytics 4 because a huge part of GDPR is that information that's collected there, or like, the servers need to be in Europe, basically. So not having servers in the US or elsewhere. So they literally have added, and I'm looking at my notes, they have EU-based traffic data. So it's only collected through servers based in the EU. So I know that was an area of concern, part of the reason why Google came out with Google Analytics 4. So just so you know, they're still working on things and they're making things happen. So let's dive in, though, to these social media metrics because, hey, if you're watching this, you're on a social media platform. So we need to make sure that we talk about those. So there's different types of metrics. So let's start with like those awareness metrics, okay? And really, those are just numbers that help people see your content, like how much of your stuff that's like out there is being seen on social media. So one of those is reach. It's a number that most of us look at probably a little too often, but it's the number of people who see your content. So it's kind of great to monitor like your average reach, or like maybe you had a post that went viral. Okay, so you can measure the reach on that particular post or story or video. Okay, from that though, you can look at, especially on Instagram in particular, you can look at a subset of that group and lets you know how many people who saw it were actually followers versus your non-followers. And that can prove some interesting kind of details in terms of what was, how your content was pushed out. Okay. So another one is impressions. Okay. So that's the number of times someone saw your content. So it could be that I saw your content 3 times. So that's 3 impressions, whereas Sally saw your content 1 time. So that's a 1 impression. Okay, so if you have high impressions, that could mean that people like myself are maybe looking at your post multiple times. Okay, so that might be something of interest to you because, again, it might mean that, hey, there was something there that was pretty good and people kind of kept coming back and digging in for it. Like the really good potato salad that your aunt would make, and like everybody would go back in 9 seconds. Yeah, so that's like impressions. Audience growth rate is another one. So it's like how many new followers are following your brand. So when you're on social media within a certain amount of time, like you got some new folks that are like, hey, what's that information that she's putting out over there? Or he's putting out over there. So looking at your audience growth rate. Okay, so If you have like a pretty large existing audience, you're going to like basically need a lot of new followers to kind of maintain that momentum. So that's definitely something to think about. Okay. And if you want to figure out how to calculate that, you take like we're going to do some math here, people. Maybe I should warn you. You're going to take your net new followers, like on each platform, over whatever your reporting period is. Let's say it's over a quarter. Okay, and you're going to divide that number by your total audience on each platform. Then you're going to multiply times 100 to get a percentage. Okay, so those are all under the area of awareness. Now let's start talking about engagement, because it's one thing for your content to get in front of people, but what happens after that becomes a question. So now that's where we're like, how do they engage with your content? Okay, so engagement rate is one of those things, like your reactions, your comments, your shares, like what's taking place in your audience as it relates to that content. Okay, so you can have also your amplification rate, like what's the ratio, more math, of shares per post to like the number of your overall followers. Okay, so like are people like taking your information and they're like, oh my gosh, everybody else needs to see this, let me go ahead and share this. Okay, so that's another thing that you can look at. So the more followers you have, like it expands, they expand your reach for you, you know. So more followers, the more people who share that information, boom, it gets shared to a larger audience. Okay, so there's also a thing called virality rate. And let's be honest, like I'm hoping people are still not trying to go viral. I don't really know, but if you are, or if you want to kind of gauge, like, did that content in terms of its amplification, um, like, you know, share like how many of impressions rather than as a percentage of followers. So there is that. I'm not even going to dwell on it because like I don't even want to get people so upset. So then you have video metrics. So if you have video views, like, you know, there's people, I like Facebook, it's at 3 seconds. I know there's like 3 seconds. Oh goodness, I can't even remember the other numbers right now, but like literally you have like how long people have actually viewed it, and 3 seconds is typically what counts as a view. Okay, and then there's like video completion rate for like of those people who watched all the way to the end. Okay, and so that's another good one. Customer kind of experience or like service metrics. So like, do you have a customer satisfaction score? And that's like your response times and response rates, in addition to like how happy people are with your product or service. Okay, and that's like one that you can literally use a bot to kind of like, you know, hey, how happy were you with this? And you get that little pop up, you know, so that's something to think about. Net promoter score is like a measure that, you know, your customer loyalty. Okay, and there's different ways that that can actually be factored. But you can take like your number, subtract your number of promoters from your number of detractors. Okay, there's actually sites though that will help you kind of break that down further. And so then there's also like your return on investment metrics, because you want to look at things like click-through rate, you know, like how often are people like clicking a link in your post to access additional content. Okay, so that would be your click-through rate. And that's also if you do some Facebook, Instagram, like ads and stuff, like, you know, there's a click-through rate as well through there to see like, it's one thing for people to view your ad on a platform, and then it's another for them to take that next step, which is to click that button, because there's typically, you know, a link, and that they go to this next area to learn additional information. So that's super important as well. Um, so some other benchmarks that you can use obviously are like conversion rate, you know, like how often your social content kind of starts the process of a conversion, whether it's a subscription, a download, a sale, you know, like did your content start that process? Obviously, last week we talked about UTM parameters. So that helps you know if your social was actually converting because you've already tracked it, right? Right. All right. So that would help you with that. Cost per click. Um, so if you are running ads, there's literally like amount you're going to pay per individual who. Okay, so you want to understand like the lifetime value of that customer for your business. And if anyone's a Shark Tank watcher, you know that you've heard about lifetime value. Okay, because Kevin O'Leary is very quick to ask, and what is the lifetime value of that customer? So like higher lifetime values, like, combined with like high conversion rates means that you could probably spend a little bit more um, in your ads to get people to your site. Okay, so you can also look at cost per thousand impressions, or CPM, and it's just what it says, like over 1,000 impressions. What's the cost? So, there's a few different things that you can calculate as it relates to social media metrics. Okay, so now we've talked about the social metrics. Let's talk about some web metrics to keep track of in your business. Because once again, there's a lot of stuff that you could be looking at, but we want to make sure that you're looking at what's important for you. All right. So, one for your website is page views. Like, it's pretty simple. Like, measure the number of times a page on your website is seen, like by a visitor. So, what is that site? Like, what are the page views for all the sites that you have on your website? Like, you might have your homepage, you have maybe a blog, your services page, an about page, a contact page. Maybe you have a podcast, so there's like a podcast page. Maybe you have a shop, so there's a shop page. Like, when it comes to that, like, what is taking place? How many people are coming in to look at those pages? Okay, and which pages, are they looking at a page and then like, hey, I kind of like what I saw, like, and seeing it longer, how long are they staying on it? We'll get into that. But you really want to look at that because it can indicate a few things. Like, it can indicate whether your SEO is good, like your marketing, your brand awareness efforts. All of those things come into play because it could be that, like, if you're focusing on organic traffic building and you're not focusing on ads, like your SEO needs to be tight in order for that to be a driver of traffic to you. So page views is another one that you could look at. Average time on page is what we hinted to already. Really just looking at like how long are people spending on the different pages of your website. Um, that can definitely be an indicator of like how engaging or how effective your content is. Like, the longer you're like holding their attention, like the better. They are engaged, they're going through, they're liking what they see, and they're wanting to consume more of that. Okay, so that's another one that you can definitely track. Average session duration. All right, so it's like when they come to your site and maybe they land on your homepage, and then from your homepage they go to your about page to learn more about you, then they go to your services page, and then they go to your blog, and they start reading one blog, and they're so entranced that they've read four more. So what is that session duration? So like, they got there and they, like the grocery store, you went in, you wanted to only pick up 2 potatoes. The next thing you know, you got 2 potatoes, and then you wound up with some celery. You wound up going a few aisles over for some mayonnaise. You wound up coming back to the produce to get some onions. And then you're like, hey, you know what? I'm going to go home and make potato salad. So, with that being the case, like, that entire time you were in the store was like your average session duration. So, what does that look like? Pages per session. Again, like, we see how long they might have been in there, but like, where did they go when they were there? So, like, how many pages on average are they consuming when they're on your website? Back to the grocery store, how many aisles are you going down while you're in the store? I wonder if they ever track that, because, like, seriously, I will go down the same aisle more than once because I've missed something in the aisle, despite having a list. So you can track your pages per session, that people are actually on. Okay. And then there's obviously the bounce rate, so that's like the percentage of visitors who like load a page on your website and they like gone. They're like, what is this? I didn't want to be here. So they pretty much bounce off your website and they go somewhere else. Okay, so looking at your bounce rate really can tell you a few things, especially if there's a certain page on your website. I don't know. You have some page that like literally people land on and they automatically bounce like all the time. You really want to look at the content for that site, for that page. Okay. So then you have like your traffic sources, because again, you can have organic search, you can have paid search because you might actually have some ads going on. Referral traffic, like what other websites link to your website. Okay. Search engines. Might, like some can exclude some of those things, but for the most part, you can see that. Email, maybe you have an email list and people are coming from your email list to your website. Direct traffic, like people who just automatically know, like, your URL and they go online, they're like Costco.com, it's like they don't go to like a search engine to find it. They're not clicking maybe from their email. They're like literally typing you directly into their search engine. Okay. So those are some of the things that you can measure when it comes to your website traffic. Another one is like new visitor sessions. Okay. So those are those people who they're not return visitors. They are new to your site. Yes, they are like here to see what you are all about and everything. So you want to see what that's like. Like, are you attracting new people to your site? In addition to obviously those who are return visitors are super important as well, because like, hey, they like what they saw the last time and they came back again. Okay, so you want to also look at that, look at that comparison between the repeat people and the new people. And what's that looking like? What's the ratio of repeat to new? All right, and then again, just like with social media, you want to also track your conversion rate. So like, what is the desired actions on your website that you want someone to complete? Maybe you have a form to fill out. Maybe you have a free lead magnet or a downloadable of some sort, a trial or a product. There's so many different things that you could have take place on your site. And so, what is that conversion rate of when those things actually do take place? So, that's another thing that you definitely want to track and keep track of. So then like exit rate and top exit pages, because remember, we were already looking at where do they come, like when they land on your site, like where are they landing, okay? But what is the page that makes them go away? Like what page do they exit on? And there could be some indications into that. It's like, why is that their last page? Like, and you might have like your thought out your like customer journey, and it's like, that's not where I wanted them to end. Like, why are they ending there? So, you want to see like what's that like and what that rate of what happens when they do actually exit. Um, Let me see. If you have some different events that you want to track, like you can literally attract different events on your site. Like maybe you want to see like the actions users take, like whether it's downloading a resource, clicking a certain link. Maybe you have a button that says, like book a call here. Okay. And you want to know how many people click that button, because you cannot assume that the number of people who actually booked a call is the same as the number of people who actually click the button to book a call. Okay, so there might have been 100 people who clicked the button to book a call, but only 35 people booked a call. Okay, so there are certain events that you might want to track, and that could be how many people are clicking this button, whatever the button is going to be on your site, but you can definitely track those things. You can track scroll depth. You can track how long a video was played if you have video on your website. Like, do people scroll down 10% of a page, 25, 50, 75, 100%? Do they go all the way to the bottom? So those are different events that you can track on your website. Okay. So in addition to that, we said we would also cover what happens if you have an e-commerce site. because e-commerce is a bit different in the sense of what you are what you're looking at, so to speak, because it's a store. You're selling stuff. It's not a service that you're trying to sell in most cases. So you still want to have that sales conversion rate because obviously you want to see like, how many purchases over how many sessions. And obviously there's some multiplication and more math involved there. Okay. But say also average order value. Um, like I have a girlfriend who sells soaps. Okay. So she also sells um, body butters, um, like lip gloss, soap containers, like for your natural soap and stuff like that, and a loofah scrub thing. Thanks, Clarine, for liking my earrings. um, but yeah, so like, or maybe it's like earrings that are being sold. But like how much are people purchasing when they're on your site? And you want to know what that average order value is because do they come in and they want a one bar of soap, or do they come in and they're like, oh, I want two soaps, I want a body butter, I want a lip gloss, and I want a soap drying dish. So that order is going to be larger than someone who came on your site to purchase a bar of soap. Okay, but you want to look at those and see what's the average order value when it comes to what people are purchasing on your site. The earrings, like I used to make and sell jewelry. Are people coming in, they're buying just so one set of earrings? Are they coming and buying a set of earrings, another set of earrings, a necklace, and a bracelet? So that always impacts like your average order value. Kind of back to the grocery store example again. You went in to buy one thing and then you come out with like this whole cart full of stuff. So customer lifetime value is like the total revenue your business could expect from a single customer throughout their lifetime or like the lifetime of their relationship with your business. And this is an industry standard that will change and vary, obviously, depending on different industries because, you know, you might have a subscription that's like $25 a month. Like, so if someone stayed with you for I don't know, 3 years or something like that, you like average, customer lifetime value is like $900. So it's something to like think about as it relates to that. Customer acquisition costs. That's another one from Shark Tank. All right. Like, how much does it cost you on average to get a new customer? They always tell you it's actually easier to sell to people who you've already sold to than it is to acquire a new customer. Okay. But you need to know what it takes to acquire that new customer. Like, how much does it cost? The amount spent on your marketing divided by the number of new customers is going to let you know that. And that's that customer acquisition cost. Because you have to think through what does it take to get like in front of new eyeballs and for those new eyeballs to follow with their wallet in order to make that purchase. Okay. Shopping cart abandonment rate. Especially in the e-commerce, you really want to know like what does that look like? So like a number of completed purchases divided by like the number of shopping carts created. Because let's be honest, I know I'm not alone. I am not the only one who's guilty of putting something in my cart and being like, I don't know. Or like I found out the shipping was going to cost more than the daggone item. And I was like, do I really want this? I don't think so. So you're going to take like that number of completed purchases divided by the number of shopping carts created and multiply it times 100 to find out what that shopping cart abandonment rate is, which is super important. Okay. Because there's something there that's like creating a friction point for people. It could be the shipping cost. It could be something else. Like literally, I am known for abandoning something. If I put it in my cart and it's like shipping is what? Are you kidding me? Nope, I don't want it right now. Or it's like what's that? Free shipping if you spend $50. And then I have to have the conversation with myself because I'm like, wow. And you're at like $34 or something. You're like, do I go back on this site and find something else to purchase that I really don't want? But I'm gonna do it for the free shipping, So there's so much to think about, and you want to look at like how often are people creating carts that they do not actually complete those purchases. Okay, and that helps also with like your retargeting. We've all seen it, like you've gotten the email or you've seen the ad pop up. Hey, I saw you were looking at blah 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 blah. So they might come back around with a discount or like anything is possible. So returning customer rate is another one for e-commerce businesses. Like how many times is like someone coming back like to make another purchase with you, which is, again goes back to um it's easier to sell to people who you've already sold to. Like it could literally take, I think some averages say like 5 times as much money to get a new customer than it is to sell to someone who's already purchased from you. Okay, so again, you want to look at your bounce rate because again, that does come into play because if people are coming on your site and then they're like, "Oop, I'm out of here." What's causing some of that? Is your marketing saying that you, I don't know, sell some luxurious experience and then they get to your site and they realize like you sell toilets? I don't know. So it's something to look at, relates to that. Net promoter score, again, with your promoters and your detractors. Click through rate, again. Store sessions by traffic source. Now, that's a little bit more detailed because of e-commerce in terms of like what traffic sources are sending these people there and how many sessions are they having by that traffic source. So your email, again, um, social media, like different platforms, your website, like where, how are people coming to your site, and like from those sources, how long are they staying there? Source sessions by device type. And we didn't really talk about that with the social and the web. But, are people doing most of their purchasing via like their phone or a desktop or a tablet? Because that helps you when it thinks about how people are accessing, and it talks about things, has you think through how accessible things need to be on your website. Okay, source sessions by location. Maybe you are in Maryland and you are selling, I don't know, like blue crab stuff, and you're like, oh, you make the assumption that like all of your customers are from Maryland area because they love blue crabs. You start looking at your store sessions by location and you find out that, I don't know, people in South Carolina are like, oh my gosh, we love all the blue crabs. And they're like your people. So that helps like where your marketing might need to be adjusted. Okay. Top products by unit sold. So like what are your top sellers? Like what's the things that people are coming in and they're always looking to buy? You want to give yourself a month end like inventory snapshot. It's helpful to know like at the end of the month, what do you have on stock? Like what do you need to be making more of or purchasing more of, whatever your stuff is. Average inventory sold per day. All right, let's get into that nitty and gritty because that's a definite nitty and gritty one. Okay, understanding like how much you're actually selling in terms of your inventory on a day to day basis. And all of this helps you not only improve your forecasting, but it helps you understand the performance of your products and your site and your marketing. It helps you understand like how people are engaging with your website. Um, and all of those are very helpful, like, especially for an e-commerce business in terms of, determining and figuring out how to move forward. So, again, there are a lot of things that you can track in your business. Okay. My hope is that you are tracking something. Please tell me you are. All right, so that you are actually having some sort of understanding, some sort of baseline as to what's taking place, whether you're focusing on social analytics or web analytics, or maybe you have e-commerce. You need to be tracking things Otherwise, what are you doing? Okay. So if you have any questions, definitely let me know. If you like my earrings, let me know. I think I got them at Marshall's. So thanks for tuning in, and I will see you next week. Bye.